By what name are you known?
There are some who call me Tim.
Welcome to another episode of Timmy Talks, the channel where we talk old school magic. And today we are in Leeuwarden, the Netherlands, and I'm super excited because this is the first video in a long series of Magic the Gathering match videos that I've recorded at the Uthden Troll Cup. And the Uthden Troll Cup is the biggest 93-94 event in Europe and one of the biggest events in the world in old school Magic the Gathering. And there were over 200 players playing Magic on this Saturday. That was when the tournament took place, and it's just amazing. And I've got so many cool matches for you. I can't wait to start. And I guess I am starting actually because this is the first episode. And in that first episode, we're going to see Jakob from Denmark. He's sitting on the left, I believe. He's taking on Carl from Sweden. And both players are playing robot decks, but both players have made slightly different choices. And of course, I'm going to discuss those choices with you in the deck tech section of this video. But before we start with the deck tech, first a quick message from our sponsor, 341 Trading. 341 Trading is one of Europe's leading Magic the Gathering retailers. Their online shop has a fantastic selection of high-end Magic cards, especially for vintage, legacy, and yes, old school Magic players. They now exclusively offer my community free, fully insured and fast worldwide shipping on all their high-end singles, full sets, and out-of-print sealed products. They upload new cards every Wednesday and have weekly sale offers and reductions waiting just for you. Use my code TIMMY to get free worldwide shipping on your first order over $500 or euros. Have fun ordering those cards, and thank you 341 Trading for sponsoring this video. And we are back and ready to dive into the deck techs. I'm going to start with the player on the left, that is Jakob. Let's take a look at this Robots deck. And here we see the deck of Jakob. So Jakob is playing a Robots deck, right? And what does that mean? Well, it means you're playing a deck built around the two artifact creatures, Suchi and Triskelion, the two robots. And what you want to do is you want to get these creatures out as quickly as possible with your Mox and your Felwar Stone, all your ramp, right? You get one of the robot creatures out, then you start copying them like crazy with your copy artifact, and you basically overwhelm your opponent. And of course, this strategy goes really well with the card The Abyss, because The Abyss doesn't affect artifact creatures. So a lot of robot decks play with The Abyss in the deck as well. And that's kind of where it becomes personalized, tweaked, you could say, by different players. So for example, we see Jakob is playing, blue and the Abyss, what most robot players do, so blue and black in combination with Triskelion and Suchi. But then what other color are you going to use? Are you going to go for red? Are you going to go for white? In this case, we see white, so he's playing with Disenchant, with Swords to Plowshares and Balance. And that's of course why white is so good, right? It gives you access to that top removal, to that control package, and he's also combining that again with his counter spells and his mana drain. So this is a very controlling build, and I think in that controlling build, the Underworld Dreams that are in this deck also kind of fit that idea, right? I'm going to control the board, and that Underworld Dreams is slowly going to kill you. And of course, Underworld Dreams in combination with Time Twister is also really a nice little synergy there in the deck. And what I find most interesting about this Robots build is actually the two Triskelions main and the two in the sideboard. So instead of going with with four main, a full playset, which probably normal robot players would do, Jakob has decided to, take a little different decision there, take a little twist, only playing with two Trikes main, and perhaps because he's cut two Trikes in his deck, he's got space for those two Icy Manipulators. Icy Manipulator, of course, a very good card as well. And another interesting choice that he has made is putting the Mishra's Workshop in the sideboard instead of the main board. Like you would think you would always play it main when you play robots. But then again, when we're looking at this deck, there are so many cards that he wants to cast that he cannot cast with his Mishra's Workshop. So I find this interesting, these decisions. So I'm really curious to see how it's going to work out. He's also playing with two Juzam Djinns in the sideboard that maybe he could get put in the deck instead of the Triskelions, right? So he can say, I want my deck to be a little bit quicker, and I find Trike is a little bit too slow in this matchup. He could go for that as well. So it's interesting. I'm looking really forward to see how it's going to work out, like how these choices are going to have an effect on the deck. Is it going to make it better or worse when you compare it to, like I said, the standard decisions, the four Trikes, and of course the Workshop main. So interesting to see these differences. Well, this is the deck of Jakob. Now let's take a look at the deck of his opponent, that is Carl, and Carl is from Sweden, and he's also playing robots. Let's have a look. And here we see the deck of Swedish player Carl, and like I said, it's also a robots deck, but the interesting part here is looking at the differences. So the first thing, of course, that I notice here is that Carl is not playing with white. Instead, he's playing with red. So he's playing with 2 shatters, 4 bolts, and a Wheel of Fortune. So that's a different choice, right? And then he's also playing with 4 Triskelions, not just with 2. So he's playing with the full playset. And I think when I'm looking at this deck, it's just more aggressive than the deck of Jakob. So Jakob's deck is more controlling, and of course that also fits the white cards. And this deck is more aggressive, like Carl's deck. And why is that? Well, because he's playing with 4 Psionic Blasts and 4 Lightning Bolts. So he's got a lot of direct damage. And I mean, if you look at Triskelion, you could also see it as a very expensive Lightning Bolt. I mean, if your opponent is low enough, it's great, right? You can start firing off those counters and you can just kill your opponent that way. And that's not an unrealistic plan if you look at all the direct damage in the deck here of Carl. And yeah, other than that, of course, we see a lot of similarities. We also see the power, we see the blue power, that all makes sense. We see 4 copy artifacts, we see 4 Suchis, that makes sense. It's maybe nice to note that he's playing with a city in a bottle main. Of course, against certain decks, that's really good. In this matchup, it's not that great. Another interesting factor is because he's going a little bit heavier on the artifacts, you could say, he's also playing with Blood Moon in the sideboard. So that could actually be a card that he could consider bringing in after the first game. And of course, both players are probably going to play out going to board out, the Abyss, because that card is just going nowhere, right? And there's a lot of artifact hate probably coming in from both players. So here is the deck of Carl. Another thing I guess that I want to note here is that both players are not playing with Sage of Latnam. We do see it here in the sideboard of Carl, and the reason I want to highlight this is because Sage of Latnam for the longest time was kind of seen as an auto-include in the robot decks. When the robot decks kind of started coming up, people started seeing the potential of Sage of Latnam because it can, of course, draw you cards. And I think the problem with Sage of Latnam, if you want to call it a problem, is that people now know the secret. I mean, back in, I'm talking about 5-6 years ago, don't pin me down on this, but like 5-6 years ago when you saw people starting using Sage of Latnam, this card was kind of an unknown card and people would not bolt it or swords it on site. But if you play it now in today's old school era, if you play it out, boom, it's dead, which in itself doesn't have to be a bad thing because it eats removal, but it does make it less good, in my opinion, when you compare it to 5-6 years ago, where it was kind of an unknown card and people would slowly during the match realize, wait a minute, I should have bolted this creature a long time ago, and now it's already drawn quite some cards for my opponent. So interesting to see that both players made the decision not to play with Sage of Latnam, and Jakob is not playing with Sage at all, and with Carl here in this deck, at least we see it in the sideboard. So okay, so these are the decks. Now let's go to the match. Who's going to win this, Carl or Jakob? We're going to find out. Game number 1, here we go. So on the left, we have Jakob, who's playing Robots, player from Denmark, taking a mulligan here, going down to 6. He's on the play, I believe. He's taking on Carl from Sweden, who's also on Robots, but Carl is playing Robots with the color red as a support color, and Jakob is playing with white. So Jakob has a slightly more controlling deck than Carl. And Jacob starting here with the Mox Ruby and the City of Brass. Ooh, look at this. Carl starting with the Library of Alexandria. Oh, that is tough for Jakob. Does he have an answer? I mean, he does play out a factory, so maybe that can help him put some pressure on the life total of Carl. Carl drawing an extra card here already with the lowest, so going to 9 in hand in total. Let's see if he can find a land, for example, a Mox. That would be quite ideal for him. There we see the Volcanic Island. Tapping the island. There's a bolt. Look at that. So being quite aggressive. Now remember, he is playing with 4 Lightning Bolts and 4 Psionic Blasts. So just direct damage can actually get him a long way. And now it's up to Jakob to try to find a solution here to that Loa. There's a second Mishra's Factory. Is he going to attack her or is he going to cast something? That's the question. Going to tap 4, going to take a damage, go to 16. No changing his mind, go to 17. And, okay, attacking here for 3, I guess. Yeah, I guess we see Carl dropping here to 17. So choosing to attack instead of playing something out. I wonder if he had, for example, a Suchi in hand, playing with a full playset of that. And now Carl, of course, taking on the turn, drawing extra cards here again. I mean, it's such a luxury position here for Carl to be in. 9 cards in hand, and I wonder what he can do. There's a workshop, that's pretty good, so could potentially cast a Suchi here. Okay, there we see a Black Lotus. Now he could even cast a Trike, drawing a card first, going to go up to 8, so I guess he wants to cast something else. Are we going to see a Triskelion here? Turn number 3 for Carl. Beautifully signed Black Lotus, by the way. Looks gorgeous. Yep, there we see the Triskelion. So it's a 1/1 creature for 6 mana. I know it sounds really bad, but it comes into play with 3+1/+1 counters, and you can shoot those counters off and target them to any target that you want to. And that makes the creature so good. It's a great target for your copy artifacts. And interestingly enough, of course, in this matchup, because both players play with robots, both players have a full playset of copy artifacts in their deck. So we could perhaps see Jacob here playing out a copy artifact, attempting to copy the Triskelion. So tapping down the city here. Okay, there we see a Swords to Plowshare, so he would drop to 16. And let's see what Carl is going to do. He could, of course, shoot his own Trike. That's what he does, and he deals, 2 damage here to Jacob. Jacob dropping here to 14. And there's the Animate. And I mean, this makes sense because Carl has an active Loa. You want to try just to put pressure on his life total. So attacking here for 2. There we see a Lightning Bolt, though. Yeah, that's unfortunate here for Jacob. It's looking very, very good for Carl because of that active Loa. I mean, he's just going to keep drawing extra cards, meaning he has more spells than his opponent. And it usually leads to victory. Here we see an Underground Sea. Tapping 4, are we going to see a Suchi? Suchi, of course, being a very good creature in Swedish because there's no mana burn. Here we see the Suchi, 4/4. Untap, upkeep, draw here for Jakob, who probably kind of knows at this point, okay, I'm probably not going to win it, but you know what? I'm going to try to collect some information. And if I can come back into this game, it's a bonus. Remember, it's just the first game. It looks like he's thinking about casting something. I wonder what he's going to cast here for. Okay, also tapping here the City of Brass. Yeah, there's the Psionic Blast. So he's going to target the Suchi. He's going to take 1 from the City and, of course, 2 from the Psionic Blast. So dropping here to 11, basically playing a Lightning Bolt on himself. But he is, of course, killing that Suchi. Yeah, and this is really rough. Look at this. Insult after injury. Yeah, this is Carl really living the dream here. This is a win more scenario. He's got so many cards now in hand, so probably going to see at least another Trike or another Suchi hitting the board. First playing out a land. Yep, there we see the Suchi. Are we going to see a copy artifact, drawing an extra card before playing anything else out? Going to go to 8 in hand, so I assume he's got something. Oh, there's a Time Walk, yeah. I mean, this is what you're going to get, right? If your opponent draws so many more cards than you, he is going to find those really, really good key cards. And he can just play out cards without really thinking about it because he can just draw new ones with the Library of Alexandria. Here's the attack here. So Jakob on 7 at the moment. There's another Suchi hitting the board. And drawing an extra card again. Oh, man, so much luxury. Are we going to see, I won't say copy artifact, but no, we're going to see a Strip Mine and a pass. Yeah, this is just really tough for Jacob here. I mean, he does play with balance. Balance could help him. But I guess he doesn't have... If he would have had a balance, he would have slammed it on the table already, I assume. I mean, I know, Carl has 2 blue open, but you got to take the risk at this point, right? There we see a Disenchant, so he's going to take another damage, go to 6. At least taking care of one of the 2 Suchis. There's a Psionic Blast, that's it. End of the road, so the Blast will put him on 2, and then, of course, it's Carl's turn. He can swing in for 4, so Carl winning it here in what we could call a Library of Alexandria game, and it's just the first game, so don't worry. Both players are going to dive into their sideboards, and we will catch back up with them in game number 2. Game number 2 here. Jakob, of course, on the play after losing that first game. Let's see, are both players going to keep their hand? That's the first question. I guess here we see the hand of Carl there. Oh, look at his library for Jacob. Okay, I guess it's his turn now. There's the pass. So just a Volcanic and an Emerald. Okay, and a Pearl and a pass. So maybe Carl can get quick enough to make it really tough here for Jakob. 7 in hand now after the draw, so probably going to use the Loa exactly before playing out a land. I'm expecting to see a land drop and go. Exactly, Underground Sea passing the turn. Can we see a land and a Suchi perhaps? Tapping 4. There's the Suchi. Okay, so pressure on the board. Untap, upkeep. Is he going to use the Loa before draw or not? Nope. Going to go up to 8, I believe. There's a land. No, changing his mind. What are we going to see here from the Dane? Seems to be struggling a bit here. Okay, there's the land again we saw earlier. So Tundra hitting the board, 7 in hand, I believe. So exactly, you want to probably use your Loa here. Gonna go back up to 8. Does he have a copy? That would be quite nice, actually. Copying the Suchi here, tapping 2. Yep, copying the Suchi. So both players now having a 4-4. Passing the turn. Yeah, I think if you're Carl now, you just want to, swing in. Or maybe if you have a Psionic Blast, kill the Suchi on Jacob's side. Would be nice here to have a land, because then, and a Psionic Blast, because then you can Psionic Blast the Suchi and you can animate your factory and attack for 6. Yep, there's a Psionic Blast, so that's kind of the scenario that we're probably going to see here. Animating, swinging in for 6, and this is the pressure you want to put in somebody who has an active Library of Alexandria, right? You want to make it really tough for him to kind of sit back and draw those extra cards. And Jacob now under pressure. But remember, he's playing with disenchants, with swords, so he has a lot of answers here to the threats of Carl. So we're probably going to see some answers here. I don't think that Suchi is going to survive this turn. Here we see Jacob going to go back up to 8 cards in hand. Tapping 3. Okay, we're going to see, yep, Psionic Blast here, taking care of the Suchi. But I mean, it is hurting Jacob, right? It's already on 12, and now Carl can swing in with his factory, put him on 10. Animate. And copying it, yeah, and the copy comes in as a land, so he can use it to pump the factory, dealing 3 damage here to Jacob. He's on 9 already. Oh. Yeah, this must be concerning for Jacob. Again, also considering the fact that Carl is playing with 4 Psionic Blasts and 4 Lightning Bolts. Has to find a way here to kind of stop taking damage. But that's easier said than done. I mean, disenchants would really help, because then, of course, he can play some disenchants on those factories once they're animated in the turn of Carl. So Jacob here finding a City of Brass. Passing the turn here. So I'm really expecting to see some swords or disenchants here on the factories. And I guess if you're Carl here, if you don't have a better option, you want to animate your factory, swing in, and keep 1 factory back to pump it in case there's a block from Jacob. Then again, he also has 6 mana now. Okay, 7 even. Remember, he's playing with Fortress Skellions as well. Animating 1 of the factories, and he's going to swing in, it seems. That is the question, or does he want to maybe copy it? Going to tap 2. Yeah, he wants to copy it again. Are we going to see a disenchanting response? Jacob here taking a moment, of course, realizing that he's quite low. First drawing a card, very good. I forget that more often than I want to admit. I have 7 in hand, play out my disenchant, or in my case, a counterspell, and then, oh no, I've got 6. Fudge. Should have first drawn the card, so Jacob not making that mistake. 8 cards in hand. Going to tap 2. I'm expecting to see a disenchant here. Oh, we see a counterspell. Okay, counterspell on the copy artifact. That's, of course, a possibility as well. Is he going to tap the red here? Does he want to attack with both, kind of indicating to have a lightning bolt in case Jacob animates his factory to block? So an interesting moment in the game. Yeah, just attacking with the 2-2. Offering the trade here to Jacob, so could animate his factory, pump it itself, you know, block, pump it itself, and then it's a 3-3 for a 3-3. Looks like that's what he wants to do. He's going to tap the City of Brass. That means he would go to 8. Okay, so swords instead. So swords to plowshares. Going to pump it to 3, of course, so that he gains 3 life instead of 2. So going to go up to 21. And pass turn. And I mean, this is not too bad, right? I think if you're Jacob, it's not too bad. You only took 1 damage in total. You countered the copy. You killed a factory. And on the long run, you're going to draw way more cards. So you just have to make sure you stay alive. There's another Mishra's factory for Jacob. What else can he do? Tap the Underground Sea. Ooh, he's actually going to get aggressive here. He is going to attack. That surprises me, to be honest. Because it looks like you're really in that defensive position. Then again, maybe you want Carl to use his bolt on your Mishra's factory, right? Because you're on 8, you don't want him to bolt you. So that kind of makes sense as well, kind of trying to provoke Carl to use direct damage on your creatures instead of on your life total. There's the animate, there's the attack for 2. Are we going to see a disenchant, a swords, psionic blast, or is he just going to block with his factory? Looks like he's going to tap the Tundra here. I mean, I don't think he's just going to take 2 damage, right? You're on 8. It's very risky. I feel you have to block here if that's your best option. If you've got a sword or this, of course you do that. Yeah, animating and wanting to declare blocks. Are we going to see a bolt here? Yeah, we are going to see that lightning bolt. Yeah, and that's unfortunate, but I kind of feel there was nothing else that he could do. He is tapping 2 here. Okay, so taking a damage from his own city, but at least he's able to disenchant the Mishra's factory here. There we see a demonic tutor. Oh. This is rough for Jacob. This is an interesting match. And yes, Jacob has that Library of Alexandria, but I mean, it doesn't mean you always win the game, you know. Yes, it's great, but if your opponent is aggressive enough, and Carl is very aggressive, you could actually lose the game, despite the fact that you're drawing twice as many cards. So here we see Demonic Tutor, and I wonder what he's going to go for. There are just a lot of great options. Mind Twist could be an option to turn off the Library of Alexandria. Direct Damage could be a good option because he's already on 8. Ancestral Recall could be a good option because, hey, then you're just drawing 3 more cards. Exactly, there it is. There's just a lot of options. Then again, the thing is with Ancestral Recall, sometimes you just draw 3 blanks, you know. It does happen. And then what, you know? I mean, Mind Twist could have just been interesting here as well. Then again, you know, probably Jacob's going to keep 2 blue open. So what if your Mind Twist gets countered away? Then you're nowhere, you know? So that's the thing with Magic. You know, every choice has its pros and cons. Let me know in the comments below, by the way, would you have picked up an Ancestral Recall here, or would you have gone for a Mind Twist or maybe some direct damage or a creature threat? Let's see what Jacob can do here. He's going to tap 4. We're going to see a Suchi. No, we're going to see a Icy Manipulator playing 2 main. So playing an Icy here, passing the turn. An Icy doesn't do much on this board at the moment. Of course, he could use, I want to say could use the Icy to tap down the Badlands, but there's a second Badlands. And here we see a Triskelion, and yeah, that's problematic. Because the Trike is always 3 damage, right? If it doesn't get countered, it's a guaranteed 3 points of damage against Jacob, who's already on 8. Drawing an extra card here again with the Loa, so 8 in hand, I assume. Yeah, this is just really tough. There's another factory. Okay, that's good at least. Could attack with 1 factory because he can pump it up to 4. And of course, Jacob really being in the tank, you're kind of realizing, okay, I'm getting closer to losing my second game as well. And that would be quite disastrous because he already lost the first one. It looked like he just passed here to Carl, or not. Yeah, and then in the upkeep, he's tapping down the Triskelion. There's the pass, or I guess before combat, and there's the pass. So, I mean, this wasn't too bad of a turn for Jacob. Carl wasn't able to really do anything else. I mean, he's still in it. He's on 8. There's a City of Brass. And he is drawing, of course, more cards than Carl. So the longer he lives, the more advantage he will take from the extra card draw. Okay, here we see a Demonic Tutor, I assume. No, it's a Mind Twist. Twisting away an island there. And what was the other card? Couldn't really see it. There's the pass. Untap, upkeep, draw. So 1 card in hand for Carl. Yeah, and now I have to say the game is changing because Carl is top decking. If he's not finding the right cards from the top of his deck, then this could go pretty quickly. Because here we see, of course, Jacob tapping down the Trike, meaning next turn he can potentially attack for 6. And then it could go really, really fast. There we do see a Bolt here. Oh, this is so risky. A Bolt here on the life total, of course. He's going to drop to 8. And if he can counter it, he's going to drop to 7 because he will have to tap the City of Brass for his second blue. Oh, man. What is going to happen here? You see Jacob really thinking about it. Should I counter this? And he is countering it. Mana Drain. Going to drop to 7. Oh, could use that 1 extra mana to animate one of his factories, by the way. But this is an exciting second game. And again here, Jacob, of course, going up to 8. Tapping 2 of his factories to play a Flower Stone. Tapping... Ooh, there's an Underworld Dreams. And he's forgetting about that extra mana from the Mana Drain, I think. Could have made a difference. But there's the Underworld Dreams. So now Carl is just taking a damage for each card he draws. He's on 18. The Trike, of course, getting tapped. Oh, look at this. Oh, that's a Time Twister. But of course, it's going to deal damage to Carl as well because of the Underworld Dreams. But I do understand this play would mean he will drop to 11. But I mean, if you're Carl, you're like, I need more cards. I need to find... direct damage to finish this game off. And remember, the Trike has 3 damage on it as well. So he can put Jacob on 4. So if he finds a Psionic Blast with these 7 cards, it's the end of the road, actually, for Jacob here. So this is a very exciting Time Twister. And I mean, I'm rooting for Jacob because he's a game behind, and I would love to see a third game between these 2 decks. It's quite close, tight game here in game number 2. So yeah, what are we going to see? That is the big question. And I mean, the most horrible scenario here would, of course, be a Psionic Blast, but a Time Walk would also be quite disastrous. And a Bolt would also get him really close to the end. But also remember, Jacob has 3 Mishra's Factories that he can animate next turn, so he can put in 6 points of damage as well. So here we see a Mox, and there's the Mishra's Workshop. Tapping 4. Are we going to see a Suchi here? No, there's a Gem Day Tome. Gonna draw a card. Okay, this is a good sign, I think, if you're Jacob. If he's gonna draw a card to find more cards, it means he doesn't have anything good in his hand. It's gonna drop to 10. Looks like he's passing the turn. So this is not too bad for Jacob. This could have been much, much worse. So untap, upkeep. And then, of course, we're going to draw. First, draw an extra card with the Loa, then for turn. So 9 cards in hand. Can he finish it here? Remember, Jacob's also playing with Psionic Blasts. This is really mana management here. Going to tap 2, the Felwar Stone and Underground Sea. What are we going to see for those 2 mana? No untapping them again. There we see a Mox Pearl. Going to tap those 2 again. There's a copy artifact. What is he going to copy though? He's going to copy the Triskelion, it seems. Yeah, copying the Trike. Tapping 2 more. There's a disenchant on the Trike here of Carl. Putting him now on 4, of course. Wow, wow, wow. What an intense second game. There's the animate, so could swing in here for 2. Or not. Is he going to do something else with that mana? It looks like he's going to do something else because I don't see Carl changing his life total here. Yeah, he's going to play a disenchant here on the Gem Tome. That's quite good. No, it's a Divine Offering. That's actually better. Wow, look at that. Going to go up to 8. Yeah, Divine Offering is so good in these matchups. Then we see Carl going to 9. I mean, the game is changing. It's not looking good for Carl. I think the Time Twister just didn't give the cards that he needed. And now we also lost that Gem Tome, which is very regrettable for Carl. Tapping 2. Okay, there's a copy artifact. So probably going to copy the Triskelion. In response, of course, Jacob could kill his own Trike. Decides not to. Is, of course, on 8. Probably going to tap it down on end step. Yeah, going to use the IC here to tap down the Triskelion of Carl. Now, Jacob being on 9, I think he can win it here. Of course, we don't know what's in the hand of Carl, but I mean, he can animate his factory, swing in with everything. Actually, he can just attack with 2 factories and the Trike to finish it here. Going to animate 2. So he's going to attack for 8, it seems. Can, of course, pump to make it 9 in total. Yeah, and this is going to be a very important combat step here. Okay, also animating the other one or not. Yeah, it looks like he is. Attacking here for 10 in total. 10 points in total. What are we going to see? Tapping 2. There's a Shatter on the Triskelion. There's a counterspell, though. Mana Drain on the Shatter. Is this a win here for Jacob? Yes, it's a win. 1-1. Game number 2. And this is great because it means we're going to go to an all-decisive game number 3. This is exciting stuff. I love it. Game number 3. Here we go. And I believe it's Carl here on the play, of course, after losing that second game. Starting with a Mox Sapphire, a Badlands, and a Felwar Stone. Look at that again. Library of Alexandria. Unbelievable. So we see the Loas really dominating here in this first match. There we see a Mox Pearl passing the turn, but we also saw in that second game how hard it was for Jacob to finally win with that Loa. So let's see what Carl can do. I mean, does he have a land in a Suchi? Okay, also has a Library of Alexandria. Probably found it from the top here. Does that mean he wants to go slowly back up to 7? That's the question. So lots of Loas in this first match that we're showing you from the Uthden Troll Cup. And like I said in the introduction, this is just the first one in a series of matches. And I've got matches for you all the way up to the finals here of the biggest tournament in Europe and one of the biggest tournaments in the world of old school Magic the Gathering. Here we see a strip mine. Of course, not taking away the Library of Alexandria yet because Carl is not near the 7. There we see a Tundra. But yeah, this is a great start, of course, for Jakob, having so much time to kind of use that Library of Alexandria. And talking about time, taking an extra turn here with the time walk. Untapping. Upkeep and draw. Yeah, exactly. He had to discard, right? Because he used that Loa to draw card 8 and then took his extra turn. But of course, you got to discard first. So now he's got 7, drawing card number 8. Gonna play here the Scrubland. And of course, can tap the Loa again to go back to 8 cards. Are we going to see perhaps some Mox here? It's going to tap 2. Okay, there's a copy artifact. Copying the Flowerstone, it seems. Or the Sapphire. That's always kind of hard to decide, of course, when we don't have the audio. There's the pass. Okay, there's the strip here on the Loa. So then I assume that Carl's on 6 cards in hand. There's another duel. And of course, first using the Loa. Yeah, for a moment I thought, are you going to play something out before you use the Loa? But he's very disciplined here. Going to go back up to 8 and then play something out. Tapping 4. We're going to see a Suchi here. Oh, we're going to see a Juzam Jin coming in from the sideboard. That's pretty cool. I love that. 5/5 Powerhouse from Arabian Nights. Beautiful card. And here we see a Mishra's Factory and a Jam Daytone. Yeah, this is not looking great for Carl. And of course, Jacob here taking a damage from his own Juzam. But yeah, the Juzam could turn this into a very short game. It's a 5/5. And he's got kind of a free attack here. Oh, there's a Spirit Link on it. Wow. All that tech coming in from the sideboard. Pretty cool to see. Tapping 2. There's a Disenchant. Taking care of the book. Yeah. This is why white is so good. Disenchant, people. That card is bunkers. There's the attack, I believe, for 7 here, right? Exactly. Wow, look at that. Carl dropping to 13. Carl, man, come on. Can he make it into a game here? Or is it just too much? It seems to be the latter. And taking a damage and gaining a life with the Spirit Link, so nothing really happens. Okay, it looked like the pass went a little bit too quick here. You could see that Carl still wanted to copy his own Mishra's Factory, and that worked. So it has 2 Mishra's Factories now. And another tap for 4 here for Jacob. What can he do? There's a Suchi. There's the attack with the 5/5. Look at that, more damage, dropping to 8. Oh, the Juzam Jin is so good. Carl on 8. Remember, it's 1-1. This is game number 3, the big decider. There's the pass, though. Oh, it's looking so bad for Carl. Jacob again, finding a card. This is card number 7. They could just use the Loa again to draw into card 8. I mean, Loa is so disgusting, right? There's the attack for 9. Oh, is this the end of the road? I mean, he can animate. Okay, there's a Shatter at least. And then he can animate and double block, right? First, let's see if the Shatter resolves. Yep, killing the Suchi. Or not. Yep, Suchi is gone. Animating and animating. So attempting to do a double block here. Can make them both into 3/3s, meaning the Juzam Jin can only kill one of the factories. But you're going to lose your Juzam, so very bad transaction. The question, of course, is does Jacob here have like a Disenchant or a Swords? Yep, there's a Divine Offering. And that means he's going to lose his 1 factory. And more life gain also for Jacob, by the way. It's not very relevant, but still. Another Juzam. Okay, wow. Both Juzams from the sideboard finding their way into game number 3. Ah, Juzam Jin. What a beautiful card. What a beautiful card. Anyway, let's see what's happening here. I do believe he played with 1 City in a Bottle main, but probably boarded it out after the first game, realizing he was playing against robots. What can Carl do? Needs a miracle. That's the thing. If you're playing with white, at least you've got a balance. But yeah, what can he have? Okay, Brain Geyser. Hoping to find, I guess, a Time Walk. Get an extra turn in and then maybe see. Nope, that's it. Yeah, looking at the cards. And that's Jacob winning it here 2-2-1. And this was really a Library of Alexandria heavy matchup. And for me, that game number 2 really stood out. That was really close Magic. And I really, really enjoyed that. But of course, it's game 3. Seeing 2 Jews and Jins, you know, on the battlefield, that is always a pleasure in my book. I hope you've also enjoyed it as much as I did. Please let me know in the comments below, and also leave a like and share it on your socials. YouTube loves that stuff. And if you're enjoying this tournament, by the way, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and ring that bell, because then you will be notified whenever I post a new video. And the upcoming weeks will all be Uthden Troll Cup videos all the way up to the final. So if you don't want to miss a thing, make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for supporting the show that way. And talking about supporting the show, you can also become a patron of the channel. Check out patreon.com/TimmyTalks to find out how you can become a patron and how you can help me to continue making this content for you.
What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? Early in the morning, way hey and up she rises. Way hey and up she rises. Way hey and up she rises. Early in the morning, put him in the longboat until he's sober. Put him in the longboat until he's sober. Put him in the longboat until he's sober. Early in the morning, way hey and up she rises. Way hey and up she rises. She rises early in the morning. Pull out the plug and wet him all over. Pull out the plug and wet him all over. Pull out the plug and wet him all over. Early in the morning. Way hey up she rises. Way hey up she rises. Way hey up she rises early in the morning. What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? Put him in the scoundrel. 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 Early in the morning, way hey up she rises, way hey up she rises, way hey up she rises early in the morning.
Igitus figitus somba kazik.